Okay, so dropout layers, and these are very important to understand. So what are dropout layers? This is basically teaching AI not to memorize. Okay, so imagine you are studying for a test, but instead of just memorizing answers from one textbook, you randomly cover different parts of each page while studying. So this forces you to learn let's say, learn the general concepts rather than just memorizing specific details. Now, that's essentially what dropout layers do for AI systems. And just like a student who would want to develop or understand concepts of what they're learning, this helps the AI machine not just memorize, but actually look to understand and learn patterns. Now, if we would want to provide a simple definition, dropout layers are like a teacher who randomly covers up parts of a student notes during practice tests. When you're covering different parts of your textbook each time you practice, forcing you to understand general concepts rather than memorizing specific answers. Okay, so why does this matter for healthcare? Let's say a hospital in New York trains an AI system to predict which patients might get sepsis, right? Let's take that example. So without dropout, that we take out some values here and there, we take out some features here and there. I'll talk about this. So without dropout, the AI might learn very specific patterns that only work in that particular hospitals. You're not really challenging this AI. So for example, it might notice that the patients discharged on Fridays have higher infection rates in the community, or they come back to the hospital, get readmitted. And this might not be because on Friday discharges are medically risky for some reason, but because the hospital has a specific Friday workflow that affects patient care. And you do not have that in your AI, and you're just looking at the medical metrics. Let's say this AI system is now being used by a different hospital. Let's say it could be a different hospital in New York, or let's say this new hospital is in California, and they're using the AI system trained in that particular hospital in New York. And now the discharge procedure in California is a bit different. And in California, this AI system will fail because it was looking for patterns that do not exist in California. The patterns that it picked up in New York, in that particular hospitals, do not exist in its new environment in California. Now, this is like a student who memorized all the answers from a given Q bank, a question bank. However, he did not understand any of it. And now he is in the exam and he got a set of different questions. Now he's in trouble. He cannot understand, he cannot answer those questions properly. Now, for example, let's say an AI is trained on for heart attack predictions in a large university hospital, and it learns to rely on heavily on expensive tests, or more tests are done to train that AI. But however, those tests were not generally available at a smaller community hospital. So with Dropout, AI learns to make good predictions even when some information is missing, making it more useful in different types of healthcare settings. Dear all, I hope you are doing great and that you are liking these lessons and you are enjoying and you are learning. And I did want to suggest something as an option for you. Only if you are one of those who want to have this content in a more organized manner, there is a program that I have set up that you can find in the description. It absolutely is not necessary. However, it is only for those who do thrive in an organized approach, and there just might be a few more goodies there as well. Anyways, I wanted to share this, and now back to the video. So with Dropout, what happens is that when you're training your AI, you provide them this node, this information, this information, this information. However, you leave out this piece of information. All right, you in this sequence, in this layer, you leave out this piece of information. You have these active neurons, but you have dropped out some neurons, and the connections have to guess, okay, what is happening over here? What is happening over here? And this basically leads to a model that is better trained and a model that looks to think a little bit more. So there has to be a balance. Too little dropout, and the AI becomes like a student who only knows how to answer specific questions exactly as what he has memorized. And too much dropout, and the AI basically becomes like a student who studied with so many different textbooks and different sources, but at the end didn't learn anything useful. And why this matters? Because without any dropout, any AI might learn patterns that only work in one hospital but fail at other hospitals. So in healthcare, the AI needs to be flexible enough to work in different hospitals with different equipments and procedures, but still smart enough to catch subtle warning signs that indicate that the patient may be in danger, even though that patient may be experiencing different situations compared to what the system was trained on. Now, how can a doctor or somebody like you, as the physician or clinician in the loop, how you will use this knowledge? So when you use an AI tool and you understand how dropout helps, you ask better questions to the vendor, perhaps. So was this AI tested in hospitals similar to ours? And let's say, how well does this work when some test results are missing? And what happens if our hospital does things differently than where the AI was trained at? So these are important questions because they help ensure that the AI will work well for your particular situation. Now, in the next video, we will talk about batch normalization. Stay tuned.